Let's head back to Newsmax, New York. That's where Steve Malzberg is standing by with Chris Ruddy and Dick Morris. Gentlemen?
And thanks very much, JD. We are back here in New York. I'm with Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy and Dick Morris, political contributor, Newsmax contributor. Guys, we want to tell you the Newsmax polls have been getting overloaded. We so appreciate you playing with us, but we are finding that people aren't getting to lodge their vote because there's so much online activity. We want you to keep at it. I assure you it's going to work. Stay with it. We want to know what you have to say.
It's like important. The Obamacare computer, right?
No.
Better and it didn't cost $10 billion.
And ours works.
The web address, by the way, is newsmaxpolls.com. So people want to vote. We still want to hear. Trump is leading by
a ton.
Well, the latest number I saw was 63%, which is up from 50%. Yeah. Which was very consistent with our last vote.
Yeah. But what do you think about this?
Well, I think that Trump won. Trump won. And the media is always waiting for him to die. He didn't die. He won. But the way you have to, if you assume that Trump at some point fades, which you shouldn't necessarily, he could go all the way.
Right.
But if you assume that at some point he does and they look at the rest of the candidates, the issue here is who is vulnerable to negative ads? Who made themselves vulnerable tonight? And ultimately, I do not think Rubio can win in the face of his advocacy of amnesty. I do not think Carly Fiorina can win in the face of her support of keeping the anchor babies as they are.
Right.
I do not
Is that what you heard tonight? Did you feel that's what she was saying?
Sure it is. She was saying you can't amend the Constitution and so on. I think that that ultimately Carson can't win in the face of his opposition to the war in Afghanistan. Kasich can't win in the face of his basically support of not ripping up the Iran agreement. The one guy who comes through all of this with no negatives, because he's straight conservative on everything, is Cruz. And that is a tremendous, tremendous edge. Because when you get to Iowa and you get to New Hampshire, there are going to be negative ads on everybody else. But there's nothing you can hit Cruz with.
Scott Walker has been a true blue conservative, tough as nails, fought the whole establishment in Wisconsin, 3 elections in, 4 years, and he won in a blue state. This seems like a pretty tough guy. Why?
He's a great example of my theory. Walker began to fall when in the first debate he was asked about his previous support for amnesty.
That's right.
That was the beginning of Walker's collapse. And therefore, each of these positions, we all deal with image, because that's what TV people do. But politicians and pollsters deal with the issues.
Now, I got to tell you,
a big
Walker, I actually had said, and we all know I'm not a big Scott Walker fan around here. However, on my own show earlier this evening, I said the one person poised to make a big comeback tonight is Scott Walker. Yeah. He had nothing to lose, everything to gain. He came out of the box pretty strong, and then he faded out.
Yeah, there's not enough heft there. He's too young, he's too small, and he's too reliant on his record, and after that, there's nothing. And he suffers from one big defect. He's not a senator, because he doesn't have the ongoing ability to comment on what's happening in a way Cruz and Rubio do.
You think we're in an age now where being a senator is better than being a governor if you want to be president?
Yeah, because right now Obama's so outrageous that the action is in the Senate.
Who lost? Who was the number one loser?
Number one loser was Carson, who just didn't live up to expectations.
What'd you think,
Number
Chris?
2 loser was Jeb Bush, who is continuing to lose, and I think those were the 2 big losers.
I think Carson stayed. Look, he represents an image about America and a future of America that people love and they're attracted to. He's not a high-energy guy like that. That's his real attraction to a lot of people. He's not a lot of bluster.
He's a nice man.
He's a nice man. I think he's going to be consistent. I think
Is
Dick's
he in
right.
second place at the end of this week's polls, or is Carly Fiorina?
No, he's
I think
second place.
well, I think he's going to remain, but I think you're going to see a big rise for Carly.
Yeah, I think Carly is in second place.
Carly's the big winner, I think, out of tonight. If you, the difference, the differential.
But don't forget, Trump is the big winner.
See, I actually thought, I'm going to agree with Chris. A, he writes my paycheck. But that aside, I think he's right. I think Carly was the big winner tonight. I think Donald Trump didn't hurt himself. And what I think was most significant tonight was much more substance, much more policy than the first one. And Trump didn't get dinged in a policy debate.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Well, I think Trump went through 2 debates and he survived them both and won them both. And I think that the real threat that Trump was facing was Carson, and that's gone now.
Interesting.
Well, and I think that the message that keeps coming out of this with Carson's success, Fiorina and Trump's, they don't want a Washington insider. They want somebody different that's going to come through.
When you look at Fiorina, you got to keep your eye on Hillary's fading. If Hillary is the Democratic nominee, Fiorina's an obvious edge. But if Hillary ends and Biden wins, which I think is going to happen, Fiorina becomes expendable.
I see. Let me turn you. They're going to let us play through the break here, which is great. We can keep you a little bit longer. I want to turn your attention in a different direction. I don't recall, maybe you will, Dick. I don't recall a 3-hour debate, ever.
Yeah, God, it was excruciating.
It was too long, wasn't it?
Way too long.
I don't know what CNN was, and to have one host, pretty much.
And
yeah.
I like Jake Tapper, great guy.
And what was he
but
doing
for 3 hours
And
of Jake,
do you realize
let's mix it up. Let's get some
3
different-
hours and they barely mentioned jobs or the economy. Instead, they spent half an hour on Planned Parenthood.
That's true.
I mean, what are people concerned about in this country?
And to Chris's point, you know, you're right. It was one person. I don't understand what Hugh Hewitt was doing there. If he may have asked one question the whole night, Dana Bash might have asked 2. Very peculiar.
Well, Hewitt was there because Salem was one of the sponsors, so
He
they
didn't
had
let
to
him
have that
play.
guy in it.
What do
Yeah.
you think about the exchange about Carly and her face, where they confronted Trump?
Oh, he did great.
I thought he did great. I
No.
thought she had the winning
Wonderful.
line of the night.
Perfect.
That was it.
And
right
that was
there.
the best line of the night.
It was. It was classy. It was exactly the right way. If I had any complaints about Carly Fiorina tonight, I might have told her to pick a few occasions to smile. I think people like to see you smile on occasion. It makes them feel a little more comfortable.
Jeb could use that advice.
Jeb, I'm shocked by Jeb Bush. I have to say
I
it.
feel the same
I
way.
have to say it.
This is a guy that had a stellar record as governor of Florida. Straight down the line conservative. Some people used to joke that he was the adopted Bush because he really was a Reaganite, and he has that track record, and yet it doesn't come through, and he doesn't want to connect with people on that level.
Yeah.
It's very odd. I always
he's
assumed
been
he'd be
so
a good politician.
homogenized by the establishment. This is a guy who learned how to play tennis because John Newcomb taught him to.
Right.
He learned to became a believer because Billy Graham. He's been so in the establishment, so quintessentially establishment, that he just doesn't know how to get outside of it.
All right, so why is Michael Huckabee still there?
Well, Huckabee, first of all, is the most pleasing personality up there. The person you'd most like to have dinner with is Huckabee.
Right.
I mean, Trump would drive you crazy. Huckabee to be a nice meal.
I think his line when he
And I
said
think-
about women, my wife, I've
Yeah.
been married for 41 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it resonates with people. He
and I-
seems very authentic, Mike, and he is an authentic.
problem that Huckabee has is that he faces very stern competition for the evangelical
Right,
vote from
right.
Cruz. Now, Carson was a big competitor for that vote, and now he's gone. So expect Huckabee to move up significantly.
You really think Carson completely burnt out tonight? It's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Very interesting. So, Huckabee, you're right. They were all competing for that vote. Although, which candidate is getting the largest share of the evangelical vote? Donald Trump.
Yeah, he
Explain
gets-
that to me.
Well, he gets the lion's share of everything at the rate at which he's going.
Right. He's getting in the moderate vote, the national security vote, the liberal establishment vote he's pulling. That's why Jeb Bush is so angry, because he's taking votes. Trump is taking votes from Jeb Bush.
But he's doing more
Totally
than that
true.
to Bush. He's making Bush
He's
look
eviscerating
small.
Bush. You're right. He is
And
eviscerating
Bush
Bush.
needs to look big to win this race. It was originally Jeb Bush and a bunch of pygmies. Now it's Donald Trump and a bunch of pygmies. And Bush is, if anything, sub-pygmy.
All right, so if I've got you two just for a few more minutes, and I may never get the chance again, so we got to look down the road. Dick Morris, it's the convention. It's the Republican convention. First, give us your projection, your crystal ball. Who's the nominee of the party?
I'm not going to do that. Way too early.
Okay, since you're going to dog that question,
I'll say it, Mitt Romney. No, only kidding. Only kidding.
give me your top list. You can do that.
I think that if Trump continues to perform at a high level, he has a very good chance of being the nominee. If Trump implodes or gets boring or stuff moves past him, then I think you're going to have most likely Kasich or Bush running against Cruz or Rubio, and I think it's Cruz, and I think that he probably wins that fight.
Interesting.
I think there's 3 finalists: Fiorina, Cruz, and not Carson, but I would say Rubio is one of the.
I actually think you're probably on the right track. Guys, we got to send it back down to Florida now. We are going to Ed Berliner and the boys down in Florida. Take it away, guys.